Department of Electronic and Telecommunication Engineering, University of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka, and Master of Engineering Science and PhD degrees from the Western University, Canada in the years 2004 and 2008 respectively. His research interests are in the general area of computer vision and deep learning for vision. He is a senior member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, USA. So I would like to cordially invite Dr. Ranga Rodrigo to conduct our research methodology session on engineering discipline.
Thank you so very much for the kind introduction. We see two of them. Yes. Okay, we can start. So actually this talk is intended for the students. So faculty members, please bear with me. First of all, I like to talk about some not so happy experience. So in 2018 or so, Dr. Shamira knows there was a student group. So we worked on, of course, computer vision problems with that group. So in the department there are so many courses, and one of the courses is Advances in Vision. That's an advanced paper reading course. So by this time I had about 8 students in that course, and then there was a final year project. And then I'm happy to say that the group that worked on a problem called routing, they got a paper accepted to the topmost conference in the world. So then in this research, Advances in Vision research course, we had the first author of a CVPR presenting to the students. I think one of the rarest occasions in the world to do such a thing. And in the final year project presentations also, this first author presented that paper. The sand incident is not that's a jubilant event. I think perhaps the first CVPR paper from a Sri Lankan university. Sad story is that in 2023, when this student went to do another presentation at CVPR, June, it happens in June every year in North America. You can see the student with the Cincinnati t-shirt with the lunch. So he had a paper, not connected to us, his own work at University of Maryland. He was at Apple at that time. At about 3 a.m. in the morning in British Columbia, his vehicle was parked. He was on a taxi, Honda Accord, and a vehicle came and hit them. And the student passed away 1 year ago, not 1 year ago. Very, very one of the most sad occasions of my life actually. Cried for 3 days. So, and you can see blue t-shirt, Jadushan Rajasekaran, the gold medalist. He's at Berkeley. He's the first author of that paper. And you can see Hirunima Jayasekar also, the girl with the white blouse standing. Third author, fourth author did not do that course with me. See, the true research training is very important. You have to reach finest forums in the world. Now, I was reviewing some papers submitted to one of our conferences, and all excellent reviews, except one person who rejected that paper. And that was the person with the orange blouse, Sakela Jayaveera, and she has been trained properly in the topics. So she knows exactly that paper is not a paper. So I want to talk to you about what makes a paper and what does not make a paper. Starting with what some, okay, next slide please. What some people have talked about. How do I transit between slides? I press one button, it goes. Okay, yeah. So first one is what is research. So let's talk about that. By listening to, of course, as usual, Wikipedia, so discovering new knowledge is what anyone would say. Transition takes a long time, I think. Yeah. Wikipedia says, research is creative and systematic work undertaken to increase the stock of knowledge. Stock of knowledge. And then let's listen to a person. This person is called, I forget his name. This is the person who invented the language called Lisp. And maybe you know there's a thing called Y Combinator, which finds jobs in the US, Y Combinator. This is the person who invented that also. I mean, I read his essays and so on, now I forget what his name is. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry about that. This happens. So see the difference between a project and research. He says, of course he's a PhD from very well-known universities in the US. I don't consider myself to be doing research on programming languages. The inventor of Lisp, a great programming language at that time. I am just designing one in the same way that someone might design a building or a chair or a new typeface. I am not trying to discover anything new. I just want to make a language that will be good to program in. In some ways, this assumption makes life a lot easier. So he's discovering a new language and he does not call it research. Then what is research? The difference between design and research seems to be a question of new versus good. Design doesn't have to be new, but it has to be good. Yeah? Research doesn't have to be good. It has to be new. So I think these two paths converge at the top. The best design surpasses its predecessors by using new ideas, and the best research solves problems that are not only new, but actually worth solving. So ultimately we are aiming at the same destination, just approaching from different directions. So we cannot claim to be entrepreneurs who have mastered our research, right? So we have not reached there, the last part yet. So we are not researchers at Apple or Microsoft and so on. So we are, I think, still there in either research or design. So we must distinguish these two aspects very well. Design and research are two different things. That means doing an engineering project in the final year project does not amount to research because it is not new. So research doesn't have to be good. You can do obscure mathematics and then get published. That's new, that's research. It doesn't have to be good. So it can be irksome to other people who do not know mathematics, that's fine. Dr. Chamiri, you don't know the name of this person, right? I have it at the end of the slides. Paul Graham. See, Paul Graham is the name of the person. So he writes so many essays. It's very instructive to read those essays. So insightful, so insightful. Read one essay and you see the different perspectives of the world. Yeah, Paul Graham. Yeah. Yeah, you know. So therefore, okay, so now research. What is the dominant KPI of research? And we all know, publish or perish. Publications are the key performance indicator. So however, we know that process of making you a researcher, independent researcher, is what is truly important. That means after graduation as a PhD, you must be able to carry out your own research. So for all these things, literature search is so important. It's so important. Some people think that literature search is something that you do afterwards. Absolutely no. It's the very first thing that you do. So see what has happened to this student. It's a joke. This research is impossible, the student says. Then professor shows you the latest journal issue. The paper with the same title you were going to give it your thesis. Yeah. Student is very unhappy, right? Why? He did not do the literature search at the first instance. Yeah. Okay, so then some tips about writing. Now people will be jumping up, professors will be angry with me. Good writing is imitation. What is the meaning of that? Should we imitate someone? No, imitate the 3,000-year world history of trying to create understanding in the minds of people. That means you must give the overview first, then go into the details and then once again give a broader perspective in the paper. So this is so important. As you know, I am a reviewer of all top conferences in vision area and the journals. So I had to make a decision about any paper that I get, right? So CVPR papers are being distributed now, starting from today. I'll get some, hopefully. I had to make a decision. That decision is so critical because it's 1 year's worth of life of several people. And then other reviewers are also reviewing, and the area chairs will see what Ranga Rodrigo has done. Although the authors do not know who I am, the area chairs know. And I don't want to lose my reputation. So how do I make that decision? I make the decision based on the introduction. Based on the introduction. Your results can be so great, your numbers can be surpassing given the current state of the art, but the decision is on the key contribution of that paper. Is this advancing the level of knowledge in the world? Is it making a contribution to the field that I love? That's the decision point. So therefore, people have understood over the years of their life that that sequence of writing, starting with the abstract, introduction, methods, results and conclusion, creates understanding in the minds. That's why we have to properly follow that, imitate all the previous researchers that we have known in our life. And then the last tip is, after the tips I'll take the main material. Start with the end in mind. So what this means is this. At the end of the paper, we must be having a table, in CVPR papers, so multiple tables, comparing our work with other people's numbers, other people's results. We must be preparing ourselves to add a column or a row to that table. Take the previous year's paper, add a row or column to that. That, of course, our column must be better than that. So if you don't have that target in mind, if you do not know these numbers by heart, then how can you surpass them? So this is one of the great problems that we see in our local conferences. They take their own data set, they do their own work and report some numbers. That's not research. That's not research. So maybe we have to ask, we listened to Professor Saman Halgamuge, Ajit sir was there at that time. He said that papers that do not get cited is bad for University of Moratuwa's rankings. So therefore we have to seriously think about those, whether we should have area chairs and then see whether we are accepting those papers that just publish some numbers without comparing with the previous state of the art. Okay, now literature is so important. What did Sir Isaac Newton said? Yeah. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. That's what Isaac Newton said. So therefore, we also must stand on the shoulders of giants. Who are the giants in our fields? The people who have published before. The great groups that are over there in different countries. So research design is what we are going to talk about next. Actually, this one, the design that I'm talking about is a wrong design. It's a very bad design. But I think that's what we can do from Sri Lanka. Because we do not have strong research groups that truly know what is the next problem to solve. We do not know what is the next problem to solve. I mean, the problem that we solve may have been solved by someone else. So therefore, we do not know. So then what is the path that a student in a research group of ours can follow, given that our academic staff members are also so busy? They are doing a lot of teaching work, exam marking. In addition, they do a lot of form filling. As the head of the department, I am the chief clerk, so I do a lot of form filling. And after this, they have limited time to concentrate on what the student thinks and what the student has to think, right? So therefore, if you are a student, that's why I said this is not for the faculty members, this is for the students. Oh, bad slide. So I'll go back to the, I'm missing that slide. Did I delete it? Kita boru kila patan ganna honde nathi. Slide එක නෑ. තියෙනවා. දැන් කොහොමද මේක? Yes. So see, top left corner, as a novice researcher, you start. You do not know what your field is, but you only know that you are working in, for example, in my case, computer vision. I want to do computer vision. Yeah, this is what happened when my professor also told, let's do computer vision. Then I told him, no, let's do digital signal processing. Yeah, because I knew a little bit of that, but my professor said, no, you are doing computer vision. Yeah, so you go there. But it didn't happen to me because my professor knew the area. But in Sri Lanka, maybe that will happen to you if you are a student, unfortunately. So you know the general area of interest that you have. Maybe you like power electronics. I'm taking examples from our field or whatever, the area of interest that you have. You know that. And then you want to find out what topic to start with. Then the first thing that you should do is search Google and Google Scholar, identify journals and conferences. So that's the very first task. Where do the top people in my area publish? That's so important to know. Publishing somewhere, actually it's very bad for your reputation also. You publish in a wrong place and you become a professor. That paper you cannot take off from the internet, right? Don't let that happen to you. Maybe, so you should not do that. So therefore, search Google Scholar, identify these good journals and conferences. You must be able to keep on saying the top 10 journals and top 10 conferences in your field by hand. Yeah, out of mind. Then thirdly, now you can now slowly narrow down to a specific area of interest. You found so many conferences and journals by reading their titles, title of the journal, title of the conference. Then you know, okay, these are the areas that people are concentrating on right now. So then what you do is, right bottom corner, then you can find few recent targeted papers in well-known conferences and journals. Only pick well-known conferences and journals because the internet is plagued with bad publications, wrong ideas, incorrect things. Remember, it is equivalent to the current Sri Lankan society. So many bad things happening. So we must know how to pick the top ones, good ones, correct ones. Because you are not new to this field. Fortunately, your professor should have given you the first 5 papers. Ranga, read these 5 papers. Then you are on track. But if that did not happen to you, please actually find these ones from the topmost journals and conferences. I have some slides to show you how to find those things, topmost journals and conferences. If you are interested, or if you have time, I'll show you that also, which I skipped, the slides that I skipped. So once you find these top journal papers and top conferences, maybe you will see all these 5 papers are referring to one paper last year. That must be an important paper that everyone should read. So find those papers also, recent classic papers also in your area of interest. Now you are equipped with all the resources to slowly find the research gap. Finding the research gap is the key. You found the research gap, you have a topic, you just have to work hard to fill that gap. So read high quality papers and go through these papers to find the research gap. So that's the research gap. The gap between current research and the knowledge available in the world. That gap your work must bridge. So when as a reviewer, when I read through the introduction, the person must be creating a nice backdrop. Okay, this happened last year. This happened the year before. Last year people were concentrating on this, and this is what they were able to achieve. But they could not achieve that. Then I know when you start describing your work with the key phrase in this paper, then I know, okay, I'm expecting this to happen in this paper. This is a gap this researcher must be feeling. That's good. I should feel good about it as a reviewer. Then my inclination is to accept this paper. Of course, I will look at the correctness, results, and so on. So when you found the gap, actually you are in the right course to navigate through your research. Then you have to plan your research work. So let's briefly talk about the planning aspect also as research work. Planning involves a little bit of things that may recurrently happen. So let's look at that also. Okay, yes. However, although I showed you a very, very bad way of approaching research and finding a gap, however, we know that we must plan research to solve a grand research challenge. That's what we must do. For example, as a computer vision researcher, my goal must be, for example, creating an agent that reasons like a human being. Maybe that's my goal, so I align my students' research to do that. That's the way to properly plan research. But in Sri Lanka, unfortunately, we do not have thriving research groups. Therefore, students will have to go through that previous process that I described to you about. It's a nice picture, right? It's a nice picture. This was generated by Edge, Microsoft Bing generated that. Nice. Okay, so let's look at the plan that a researcher must have. Put pictures of lady researchers, Dr. Shamila, because now lady researchers are much more, ලංකාවට contribution එකක් කරන්න මිනිස්සු නැහැ නේ ඉතින් නේ. තේ කඩන්නෙත් ගෑනු අය, රට යන්නෙත් ගෑනු අය, ගෙවල් වල වැඩ කරන්නෙත් ගෑනු අය, හරියට ඉගෙන ගන්නෙත් ගෑනු ළමයි, කොල්ලෝ මේ මෙතන රස්තියාදුවේ ඉන්නවා. ඉතින් එහෙනම් ගෞරවයක් වශයෙන්. Okay, so now after filling the gap, you have the research objectives and hypotheses formulated. That's very good. Then after that, you should have data sets. Actually, now this may not be applicable to some other fields because I am talking about my own field. I should know the data set. That means against what are the other researchers comparing the work. that data set thing is very important. So one of the first things that we see is this data set accessible? Is it downloadable by us? Is it too large? Can we process that using the processing power that we have? And then methodology and experimental design, it depends on your exact field. So I cannot say things about that. But I know that in our area, we have to think about the algorithms. That means the undergraduate knowledge is very important here. You should know your tools now. If you want to make a chair, like a carpenter, you have to know that there are something called a saw that exists, a plane that exists, a hammer, undo a meteor. If you do not know, how can you use them as tools? Of course, you have to have the undergraduate knowledge for that. Then we need to think about the facilities, computation and resources and so on. Although you found the research gap, you design them, then you should not embark on them if you do not have computational resources. For example, to carry out that research, you need to access the particle accelerator. Only available in, you have to go to Switzerland to access the particle. You cannot do that, right? So therefore, that is not a research that you should embark on. You should not go and bug your professor, we need a particle accelerator to be built in Sri Lanka. So it doesn't happen, it will not happen. So you have to strategically find the gap of research. Okay, then also the evaluation metrics and performance analysis. This is very important. What I mean is this: how have the other researchers evaluated their research? This is very important. For example, have they evaluated based on the percentage of population doing that? Have they evaluated based on the accuracy? Have they evaluated based on the, we have in our field, minimum, mean average precision, F-score, this and that, like so many more and more complicated metrics and measures are there. So how have the others measured it? Measured the performance. We have to use the same measurement. Now, for example, if you live in the Europe or Sri Lanka, you will say, oh, temperature is so high if it is greater than 31 or so on, right? The American man does not understand that. They will use Fahrenheit. 31 is so cold, right? You have to use the same stupid yardstick. I mean, it's obvious, right? So identify the yardsticks that other researchers use in your area. So now how do you identify those? So, I mean, they are obviously there in the last year's paper. So that's why, once again, literature search is so important. From literature search, you can get all these things. The algorithms that they use, the methodologies that they followed, the yardsticks that they used, the data set that they, so that means if you found the right papers, your problems are solved. So you are so happy. You must be so happy. You have to be so thankful. That's why we stand on the shoulders of giants so that we can see far. So do not underestimate the intelligence of the research community, right? I mean, they are also very intelligent people, right, who are coming from other countries. They are intelligent people. They did not do stupid things unless they are from a very bad journal or conference. They are good. So this is very important. Then comparison of research is a must. So this is the second time I am saying this. And so I think we have to force ERU to not accept papers if they do not have a comparison of research with existing research. If you do not have that, the papers do not get cited. If the papers do not get cited, we have the numbers and the citations per paper is less. Then now universities' rankings will go down. So this is just numbers. The quality is not there. So therefore, comparison of research is very important. That's why I said keep the goal in your mind. The goal is adding a column or a row to that table. If it is a complicated paper, then of course you have many other tables. But this is so important. Then if you take CPPR and so on, you have ablation studies. Ablation studies this. You have to show why the results have improved. Now, one of the greatest arguments about AI is, we don't know what's going on inside that black box, right? People who do not understand. But who understand, they exactly know what goes on inside. So you have to explain that in the paper. Because of this change, this improved. That's the reason for that. So for that, we take off different components from our work and show, okay, when we add this component, results improved this much. When we add that, improved. So this is called ablation study. So in slightly complicated conferences and journals, we will have an ablation study also. So Now, the thing is this, different fields will have a different lifetime for an idea, different fields. So in the computer vision field, maybe lifetime of an idea is about 6 months. If you publish it within, you get an idea, publish it within 6 months, you are through. Otherwise, your idea is invalidated because the other researchers will publish that. That's why conferences have taken strong prominence in our area. I will show those. That's why you have to, I missed one point. You have to stay connected, stay current with the other researchers. So I do this by being on Elon Musk's X, Elon Musk X. It was called Twitter. He changed the name to X. You cannot pronounce that also. Elon Musk's X. So hard, right? So many S cases. So yeah, you can connect with the research community with Twitter. Last year, Dr. Surangika Ranatunga told that you waste your time with the phone on Facebook, but connect to your research group on Twitter, X. Connect with that, and they will post messages. So right now, I know Ilya Sutskever, that's the main brain in OpenAI, ChatGPT. Ilya Sutskever is a computer vision researcher. He's a computer vision researcher. Has been thrown off from the board by Sam Altman. Sam Altman was the CEO who was fired from OpenAI. He's coming back. So that's research politics. That I know right now because Mira Murati, the chief technical officer of OpenAI, published that message in the research, those groups. So we see this and how it is happening, what's going on, research politics also. We know. Now if you take Ilya Sutskever, for example, he has one paper with 140,000 citations. 140,000, one paper. I think if you add the whole University of Moratuwa, it's difficult to get 147. So one paper. That's a 2012 AlexNet paper that made available the deep learning to our world. So Geoffrey Hinton is an author of that. So he has been fired from the board because I actually knew that he was the one who wanted Sam Altman to go. See, you are in touch with what's going on in the world. So you can sort of think what is going on. So I know that if Ilya Sutskever is there, he will promote open research. You know that OpenAI does not publish its papers, right? They borrowed all ideas from Google, and then they had ChatGPT. Nobody knows, after maybe 2022, nobody knows what's going on inside that company. So they, I think, tried to go back to the original mission of OpenAI being open. So, but you can see Sam Altman is so powerful. He got back as a CEO and fired. So then you can see what they must be planning now. They are not, even though they are not published, they are planning GPT-5, and they are planning to include vision, video, audio, text, and all together, multimodal. See, now because I know the current research and what's happening in the research world, I can see how the world is moving forward. So therefore, I also must know if I do some work, I have to combine language, that means ChatGPT-like language, and what the cameras see in my area. So I know that that's the right thing to do. So actually, we are doing 2 projects like that this year as final year projects. So staying current is so important in that way. So if you are a student and if your research community is not on Twitter, not posting things on Twitter, maybe you should follow their research groups. Maybe you know that University of College London has a group, maybe Berkeley has a group like that, where the main groups are and what they publish currently, what are the talks that they are giving, and so on. You should know. So if you stay current only, you will be able to come up with the next idea after going through this cycle of getting one paper. So yeah, so we'll briefly see about how to know about these good journals and conferences also briefly, because some students may be there who have not gone through this. It's a very simple thing. So what are the major journals and conferences in your area? You must know. So how can you know that? You can rank journals using, Dr. Chamir can correct me if I'm wrong, he knows better than I do about this, impact factor. So large impact factor of the journal is very much required. And the quartile, we only consider quartile 1 papers. That means if you rank all the papers in that area, what is the top 25%? So, I mean, you should even go further. Dr. Pratap Singh would say you should go even further and pick even better ones. And not H index, H5 index of that journal or conference. So what is H5 index? If the H5 index of a journal or conference is, let's say, 150, we know that within last 5 years, there has been at least 150 papers that have gotten 150 or more citations. That's what we know. So it is very hard to achieve when it's a large number. So there are Google metrics can help, as you can see. I will show some screenshots of Google. You can think about the publisher. Publisher must be good, but publisher alone does not validate anything. Some students come and tell me, so it's an IEEE paper. My conference is also an IEEE conference. See, IEEE does not mean anything now. That's why the IEEE Sri Lanka chair was worried today. Yeah, Professor Buddhika Jayasekara. So because of all these things coming into IEEE Explore, maybe IEEE is losing its name as a publisher. So like that, knowing the publisher is not good enough. So at least as a start, don't read the garbage, not sponsored by a society, journals that charge money for publishing. Don't read journals that are only electronic, only print. So like that, yes. So these are the actual measures. Citations matter. So how many citations does this paper have? So of course citations you have to decide. Like you cannot expect a 2022 paper to have 1,500 citations unless it is an extremely good publication. So depending on the year of publishing, how many citations does this paper have? The journal impact factor, H index, journal citation report, and Shimago journal rank quartile. Those are the measures. So I have given some of these. If someone needs this, I can send the slides how to compute these things and understand these things properly. So if you think about the impact factor of 2022, what that means is you have to get the 2022 citations and divide by the number of publications that happened in 2021 and 20. That's how you get the impact factor of 2022. Okay. So you can see if you go to Google metrics, you can see the top ranked. Of course, Nature is the highest ranked. So we had a person, Dr. Amit Munindadasa, who had a Nature paper. He passed away in Israel, as you know. And New England Journal of Medicine, Science, and CVPR is there. I have 2 papers. My students have 2 papers there. It will surpass Science very soon, as you can see. So then you have Lancet, that's also medical. Nature Communication, Advanced Material. NeurIPS, Neural Information Processing System, that's a highest ranked AI conference, and then ICLR is there, International Conference of, now by seeing this you know, if you are doing concrete research, use AI to discover concrete. So I just saw Google DeepMind has published that they have discovered 380 new materials through AI. Now if that is open, why don't you use this stupid system to discover new materials yourself? And I mean, make use of this AI. So you don't have to discover AI techniques, but make use of AI for every single thing that you do, because that will come into the picture. And these are extremely high ranked, you can see, unimaginably high ranked. So therefore, you can also benefit from the attention people have on AI right now. So this is the topmost list. And what you would usually do to find out the top journals and conferences in your area, if you are sort of into IT kind of areas, is you have to go to subcategories. So you can see the categories there at the top. You have to click the subcategories. For me, it's engineering and computer science, and then go to computer vision and pattern recognition subcategory. Then I know the top list of forums for that. So you can see the conferences are higher ranked than the journals. But the top journal is pattern number 4. It's called PAMI, Pattern Analysis and Machine Intelligence. So if I get a paper there, I can retire. So although conferences are highly ranked, the journal is, everyone knows the journal is very serious business to get a PAMI journal. Okay. Yeah, so if you just take artificial intelligence, so you can see neural information processing systems, NeurIPS is the highest ranked. International Conference of Learning Representations is the second one. Third one, ICML. Deadline is very soon, so we'll be submitting one paper on our world model, the ICML conference. So yeah, that's our life. So yeah, we discussed about these things. Yeah. About the publication process also, I'll briefly talk about that. I review some journals. As reviewers, we have to make decisions. Actually, the associate editor makes a decision. So you submit the manuscript at the top, submit to the journal. Then there's an editor in the journal. He has a group of associate editors who know about individual fields and the people working in those fields. So associate editor will pick reviewers, 3 reviewers, and send this paper to those reviewers using the online system. So the associate editor exactly knows the area, and he exactly knows that this person is working on that area. He knows that. So therefore he has the ability to pick the right reviewers. So he sent to the right reviewers, and then he will receive reviews. So the most horrible thing that can happen is on the very right, rejected with no encouragement to resubmit. You will say, another journal will be a better forum for this. Something like that. In nice language, they will say, they will say. Then usually what happens is, accept with revisions. Actually, this usually has 2 things. AR and AQ, I think. AR and AQ. AQ means accept with minor revisions. AR means accept with major revisions. That's the one you would usually give. But this is a very rare occasion, except with no revisions. It doesn't usually happen. Then after that, you have to submit the camera-ready version of your paper. So yeah, extra careful when you submit these things, because other students, other researchers will read our papers, and they may be misguided by a mistake that we make. So you have to be responsible as researchers. So camera-ready paper is so serious. So if you take the typical peer review process of a journal, I talked about the associate editor, reviewers, reviewing, and then editor communicating the decision back to you. So this is the review process that happens. So last time I showed this diagram. So this research is old, even older than I am. Like definitely he's more than 35 years, right? That means older than I am. So he has his paper and he's running to the paper accepted goal, and reviewers are there. New streamlined peer review process. Yeah, it's there. Okay, so in peer review types also there are several types: single blind, double blind, and open review. So all our good papers have been double blind. See the thing about this, double blind means I do not know who the reviewers are. Reviewers do not know who I am. So therefore they do not know that this paper came from Sri Lanka. That's why we got CVPR acceptance, WACV, BMVC, all these acceptances we got. Because they do not know who we are. Only the quality of our work was evaluated in that context. Good conferences have that property, double blind. But the area chairs know who the reviewers are, so you have to be very careful if you are a reviewer. Single blind means the authors do not know who the reviewers are, but the reviewers can see who they are. So I reviewed the transactions image processing journal last week. There I know who the authors are. They are universities, all these things are revealed to me, but I did not read their names. I made the decision based on the quality of the material, but I can see that and find out what they have done and so on if I like. And then the open review is also there. The reviewers know, and it's not good, it's not so good. Yeah. Okay, so some tips before I conclude about the typical review criteria. Now I'm influenced by transactions and image processing, a high-ranked journal. Why? Because I reviewed one last week. Suitability of the topic. So you cannot submit concrete research to TIP, okay? Yeah, so it must be suitable to this. Then you have to say excellent match, adequate match, or poor match. Then the B, content. Is the paper technically sound? I have to say yes or no. So no means paper has to be rejected. How would you rate the technical? Now, different journals will have different criteria. Then you consider the novelty, very novel enough for publication. So I selected novel enough for this particular paper. Is the contribution significant? That means is it like 2 lines of code, huge? That means does it contribute to the general body of knowledge? That kind of thing. Dr. Samir, I'm correct, right? Contribution means that, right? Yeah, yes. Then is the coverage of topics sufficiently and comprehensive and balanced? Rate the bibliography. That means you have covered all the important references in that. So those are important criteria. Then presentation, how would you rate the overall organization of the paper? Title and abstract satisfactory, length of the paper, symbols, terms, English usage, all these things we have to see. Because we are reviewing for a reader to properly read and understand, right? That's why, so we check the English also. But now the English is very nice. in all the papers because they have used ChatGPT to polish. So what is the thing about ChatGPT? Can you use ChatGPT to write a paper? Yes, you can. But to get by acceptance by top conferences and journals, it's absolutely useless because by reading 2 sentences, I know whether this is a human written one or the blur in a ChatGPT. So there's a blur in that. Now, do you take a image, for example? If I remove glasses, that's a blur. I don't see you. Okay. So like that, you know what I mean by blur, right? So the blur is there. Because ChatGPT is backed by the large language model that it has, right? So the text is also blurred. It's not crisp. It's not precise. So as a reviewer, at once I understand, and I know that it's not a contribution already without even reading the paper. So if you are submitting to a top journal or conference, it's an absolute no. CVPR's policies, you can get the ChatGPT to polish your paragraphs, but you cannot submit the paper and ask it to write the abstract. You can do that also, right? Submit the whole text of the paper. You have paid for ChatGPT. That means you have the full version, 30,000 word version. So you write the abstract for me. That you cannot do, but you can polish it. Yeah. So you can use it. That's fine to polish your English, but it cannot generate ideas for you, right? So that you know. So therefore, English is very good in new papers. So Merkin also had that problem. So if the reviewers are not experienced and specific about the field, they will pick those papers misguided by the language fluency. So that's a serious concern for people who are running these conferences and journals. So they have to pick the right reviewers, right track chairs, and right area chairs who love their field, who are concerned about their field. So I will not let a computer vision paper go into a forum if that is wrong. Why? Because then other researchers will be misguided by that. Our university will get a bad name because of that. So conference managers have a problem now. Then suggested references. The reviewers can suggest references. So of course, their own papers they suggest. As a policy, I don't do that. And then recommendations, you can see this one has A, publish unaltered. This doesn't happen in our life. AQ, publish with minor required changes. RQ, review again after major changes. R, reject. So those are the usually, are they the criteria? Some may differ, right? Some journals and companies. Yeah. Yes, yeah, complete reject also, yes. And then we can give confidential comments to the associate editor also, if required. So if you take a conference paper, CPR is top rank conference, so there you can see paper summary. Now, paper summary, why is that important? To see whether the reviewer understood the paper. See, the area chair will read this and see, oh, did this man understand the paper? So because of this, as a reviewer, I'm extremely careful. I don't want to lose my face in the face of area chairs. So we have to be very careful. Sometimes we get our very well-versed students also to read the paper for us also and see whether we are making a mistake. Then you have to discuss the strengths, 2 lines, weaknesses, 100 lines. And then overall recommendation, accept, weak, accept, borderline, weak, reject. So after this conference decision, you can submit a rebuttal also. That means you can write 1-paged argument against the reviewers in a conference, in these conferences. Then sometimes the reviewers decide to increase the rating by 1 and so on. So when we receive the 3 reviews, we usually know that whether we should submit a rebuttal or not, because we cannot up a paper by like 4 blocks by all 4 reviews. It doesn't happen. So like that. Then justification for your recommendation. Then rebuttal score, confidence level. That means the conference is asking, Ranga, how confident are you about this? I can never say I'm fully confident because I'm a very low person compared to all others in the world. So I say somewhat confident or something like that. But others are there who are very, very confident. So then additional comments to authors and so on. So this is how these decisions happen. Now, what's the importance of these conference and journals? So I spoke about Vinoj and Jatushan previously. So the very first paper that happened recently was a WACV paper, Winter Applications of Computer Vision. It always happens in Hawaii. So Vinoj went to Hawaii to present this paper. And a white author also has seen him. So this is, maybe I say this story all the time, and asked, do you guys do that kind of research in Sri Lanka? By the way, where is Sri Lanka? Didn't even know that a country like Sri Lanka exists. And because of him, they got to know that Sri Lanka exists. And good things happen in Sri Lanka. So recently another student came and sat in front of me. Dr. Shamira knows this person. He failed all the exams all the time and gave us a lot of trouble from 2016 batch, tall student, you know. And he sat in front of me to do academic, problems with the academic work. And he got a ICCV workshops paper accepted. The workshop is also highly ranked, but not as highly ranked as a conference. I said, okay, you have to go. It was in France. And I asked, how much money do you have? How much money do you earn? So I earn about 1 million per month. Casually saying this. I want to give up my work and start doing what he does. Not even graduated, failed all exams, earning. This is what top conferences and journal can do to you. Only few people in the world can work at that level. I know that you all are intelligent, but you have not been exposed to the topmost knowledge in the world. But if you expose yourself by spending some time and be on par with the top people in the world, you suddenly become an internationally valid person. And opportunities are enormous after that. Whatever you ask, they will give you. Because you can pass Moratuwa University exams, you can get an MSc from Moratuwa, get a PhD from Moratuwa, you can get a presidential award in Sri Lanka. But who cares outside Sri Lanka? These all are Sri Lankan standards, Sri Lankan measures. But if you get accepted at a conference like that or a journal, you surpass the world standards. And no one can question your credentials. No one can question your credentials. You should not care. Then you will get all the benefits that they cover. You get US dollars that you can exchange for different kinds of things. This is what has happened to our students who have done very well in this. So they have frequented places around the world. Just after graduation, for 3 months they go to some place and they do some research work and earn large amounts of money. When they get a break in their graduate studies work, they go to Apple, do research and earn $10,000 a month just as an intern. That's what happened to Vinod. Vinod was at Cupertino, Apple headquarters, doing research work when he went and had to pass away from this world. So this is what happens to people who do this. So see, the world is a standard. So I listened to the talk of a Lions Club president. I think he was a world president, a Sri Lankan on TV. I don't know who that person is. And he was asked, who did the greatest service to our country? I mean, he could have named himself, or he could have named a great president of our country. But he said, Sanath Jayasuriya did the greatest service to our country. Why? Because of Sanath Jayasuriya, the whole of India fell in love with Sri Lanka. International exposure. That's what runs a country, the fame of our country, the honor of our country. Bindutam behla thiyena velawe, cricket unna nathi velawe, cricket unna. So as researchers, I think we have a duty to uplift the name of our country. When they hear our name spoken at these places, they will know, oh, that country also has a good scientific community. It may have problems with its economy, it may have problems with its finances, politics, but great researchers are there. Great researchers are there. And they are outside the muddy pond. They are pristine and doing a great service. So this is what I personally desire for Moratuwa University graduate students to do, to create a great name for our country and of course our university outside the borders of Sri Lanka. Then the glory and the money and all these things will come back to Sri Lanka. Yes. So that's what I have to say about research. Thank you very much. I'm open for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Dr. Ranga Rodrigo. So from our audience, if you have any questions, Dr. Ranga is willing to answer those. So we can have a few minutes. Do you have any questions?
It's a very good question. So can AI take over the review process, right? Yeah, I think absolutely no. The reason is the review is based on human-like decisions that people have made about how the world should advance. So the AI is not capable of doing that because if you take ChatGPT and so on, the best known large language model, It just knows how to generate the next word, after next word, after next word. So right now it is a state of the art. I think it will survive for about 5 years from now. Perhaps that's what other researchers say. ChatGPT like things will survive for 5 years. So they have no capacity to make decisions or analyze things. They don't think for themselves. So AI cannot review the do the decision process. Also, architecture they cannot do. Architecture in building area, architecture in computer science area, architecture in solution design area, they absolutely have no way of doing that. So we should not be frightened about that. We must use AI, synergize with AI, use it to our advantage. So we should not worry about it at all. Actually, that's a good question, but it's not going to happen. But there will be a time when so-called AGI will come. That means artificial general intelligence. That means now ChatGPT has second-hand knowledge. What I mean by that is, I understood that there is gravity. If I drop something, it drops. And I wrote about it. I wrote about it on the internet. ChatGPT learned from what I wrote on the internet. That's second-hand knowledge. I understood something, I wrote about it, ChatGPT learned that. Not first-hand knowledge. But we will empower some systems to get first-hand knowledge later on. That means systems will know how to look at images and understand. Okay, in Sri Lanka, students don't ask questions. Things like that, right? Yeah. In our classes, they never ask questions. Things like that. Because they saw it. Not because I wrote it on the internet, they saw it. They understood gravity by dropping something or even actively learning, like a child would do. A child would, then she will never touch the itipandam again, like handle. So like that, actively learn also. There will be a time, but not right now. It will take more time for that. By this time, maybe, but it will take many more years for the artificial intelligence to go up to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Ranga, I would like to ask, so the PC, all of the top world-class universities, everything, they have very good research culture and research publications, all of these things, but they came with the support of the institution. So, how a university could support to enhance this research and other things, basically. We try to target for the top publications and all of these things. So, what is the role that could play?
Yeah, I think as a start, encourage research first of all, right? And you have to fall in love with it. If you have not fell in love with research, then how can you encourage, right? If you have fall in love with research, and then I think in our university, researchers are loners. That means you are in your own silo because no one is there to support you. But I think we have to establish strong groups so that people can collectively think. Identify areas of research, and like the rudder of a ship, we must navigate the research vehicle of the university by identifying key areas that we have strength. And then we can make a name for those areas. For example, University of Moratuwa excels in using AI in concrete design. That's the only institution in the world that knows how to do that. So things like that. So now that kind of encouragement has not been there. There has been no vision for that kind of encouragement. I think that's the very first thing that we have to do, institutional encouragement. So once that is there, I think when the researchers are truly recognized for what they do, we know that the research is a very hard thing to do, and then I think it will flourish. I don't think there's a problem with the funding. Funding can come, but this overall support, appreciation, and thinking as a single institution is important in my opinion.
Do we have more questions? All right. Thank you very much. I would like to thank again Dr. Ranga Rodrigo for being such a nice person and explaining everything on the research and how to do research, how we can collaborate AI and what is the ethical process and all the stuff on and how we can publish on the world-class journals. Thank you very much for being a nice person and sharing your knowledge on this research area. And so before we go to the next session, I would like to invite Dr. Tharusha Ranadeva, representing organizing committee, to present the token of appreciation to our resource person, Dr. Ranga Rodrigo. Thank you, madam, and thank you, Dr. Ranga Rodrigo. So, with that insightful discussion on research methodology, and I would like to thank our audience as well for joining this effective discussion. So, with that, we are moving to another break, lunch break. So, we will be starting our session at 12:45 p.m. So, we are having 30 minutes break, and I would like to invite everyone to join with us from 12:45 p.m. for the fireside chat, another impactful discussion with resources from University of Moratuwa and other institutes from in world-class universities. So with the invitation, we will be going for the lunch break. Thank you, everyone.